there, welcome to Homekeepers. So glad to be with you today. Please grab yourself a cup of tea and stay with us on this special day that America observes on the calendar. Take the day off in order to remember. And if there's anything I would like to get across to our viewers today, that Memorial Day is not for picnics. It's to remember those men and women who gave their lives. That's what I mean. They gave their lives in defense of this country, and we want to really remind you of that. And also, as I've talked to different crew members here, it's interesting how I think all of us have some family member who has served in the armed forces, and we're going to talk about those today. And my special guest is Bodie D'Andrea, and he is the son of our president and founder, Bob D'Andrea. But I've known this gentleman since he was a toddler and has led one of the most impressive lives I've ever come across. He has been in the police force, retired from the police force, and also been in the Navy Reserves and still is. And you know what I wanted to talk to him about? Because I could talk to him for 2 or 3 hours, but we don't have a lot of time. But I said, I want you to tell me, what is it that makes somebody have a yearning and a desire to be a first responder, because that's what these people are. And if you haven't met him, I trust you. I just can absolutely assure you that to know him is to love him. And I've got both Stephanie and Wanda in the kitchen, and I can hear the applause all over the world with these wonderful viewers we have. You love these girls. We're going to do patriotic, very simple patriotic recipes. So if you do these with your children, while you're doing, tell them what Memorial Day is all about, okay? And so just let me remind you that we are viewer supported, and we appreciate every dime you send into this network and to this program. And so thankful for your generosity, and that you do, you know, when the Lord indicates for you to give something to this program, you do it. We appreciate it. But now let's go to the kitchen, and we're going to show you some very simple patriotic recipes. I think you'll want to do them yourself.
So here we are in the kitchen. Get your children, get your grandchildren. These are going to be the easiest recipes, and they're going to be so much fun. And Wanda and I are here today because we both have family members who served. And Wanda's going to tell you about her dad. I'm going to tell you about my family members, and we're going to just share super simple recipes. She has red velvet cupcakes that we just prepared from a box, right?
Yep.
The kitchen looked like a murder scene this morning because Arthelene Rippy made such a mess with the red velvet. It was hysterical. It was such a mess. Oh, so she's just going to frost them with regular frosting. Mm-hmm. You can make frosting. And plus she has red and blue sprinkles. There you go. Right? And while she does that, she's going to tell you about her dad. Who served,
okay, so I have to do 2 things at once?
Yes.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, you know, my dad served in World War II. And I remember as a child, my father telling me that a couple things. One was, he said, you never, I know, talking to this, I got it.
Like, you can't just talk, you have to talk and work.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to do that way. Oh, that's kind of pretty.
Yeah.
But he said, you never met an atheist in a foxhole. He said, they would tell you, oh, I don't believe in anything, but when those grenades go off and everything happens, and
you better believe they're praying.
They are. And this is going to be kind of a mess. But anyway, my dad got lost he served in Okinawa, and he got lost in the jungle, and he got very, very sick. And the natives found him and took him back to their huts, which my father eventually had pictures of them. I don't know how he got them, but my brother has them at home. Mm. And they nursed him back to health and then took him back to his platoon or wherever. I don't even know where they did. But that was really all I remember.
That's like a movie.
I know, it should be, right? Mm-hmm. But my brother has all his, awards, and I was just glad to have my dad back, Of course, I don't even know if I wasn't even around then. I wasn't even a twinkle in anybody's eye by that time. So that's all I have.
This is how simple this is. Cupcakes, store-bought cupcakes that we made, frosting and sprinkles. So easy. Get your kids involved.
So you don't really need a recipe for this. Mm-mm. Don't ask me.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
Okay, I have cream cheese, 2 bars of cream cheese, and I have 2 6-ounce packages of Greek yogurt. I'm just going to mix those together. I had 2 pie, my brain has shut down, crusts this morning, and I rolled them out on some flour, and I put them in a pan, and I baked them for about 10 minutes. So that's already done, okay?
Yeah.
We're just going to take cream cheese and yogurt. I'm going to mix them together. We're going to top the pie crust with that, and then we're going to put some strawberries and blueberries and strawberry glaze together and put it on top. Super, super simple. So my story. First, my dad served in the Navy, okay, many years ago, and my son served in Iraq. So I have a picture of my son. We can show. This is David. That's in Iraq in front of one of Saddam Hussein's palaces. And then I also have a picture. He has formed a brotherhood, of course, with his service brothers, and they meet every year, and they get together, and they have a good time together. Just to, I mean, it's a bond that will never be broken. So if you want to talk about pray without ceasing, he was in Iraq when they first went in. If you all remember that, the tip of the spear, that was my son. And he would call on a satellite phone, because back, you know, it was quite a few years ago already, if you can believe that. And they didn't have their cell phones, but they had a satellite phone, and he would call on the satellite phone. Wow. And you're talking about pray without ceasing. He'd call and talk to my husband, and he'd say, "Dad, do you hear that in the background?" And he could hear the bullets, hear the firing, and he would be like, "Son, what are they shooting at?" And he said, "Dad, they're shooting at us."
Oh, yeah.
Talk about hitting your knees.
Yep.
Hitting your knees. So,
Yep.
yes. So that's why Memorial Day is so important. Like Arthelene said, it's not a day for just picnics. It's a day to remember.
Truly is.
What people have done. It's not just the people who are over there doing it. It's the people who are here home waiting for them too, their spouses and their children and their families.
And people who've given their lives.
Yes.
Who've given their
For
lives
us.
and for
People
our,
who've never
for our
met
freedom,
us.
for our
Yes.
freedom. And that's why I'm so thankful. Really, I'm thankful for the ones who've given their life and who have served, because, man, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that. Mm-hmm. And we all should be very, very thankful. And I'll have to say, too, while we're at it, because we can talk about it, because it's our time.
Yeah.
So we can do it.
Strawberries.
I am thankful for our policemen.
Oh,
and
gosh,
for how they
yes.
serve us and take care of us. And I just want to do something for them. I don't
And
know
Bodie
what
has
yet.
done both. So how amazing.
Yeah, that is
He's
amazing.
an amazing person. Okay, so I have the pie crust. I have the cream cheese and yogurt on top. Now I have strawberries and blueberries. It calls for raspberries too, but Arthelene said they were too expensive.
You can't get away with anything
So-
on this show, man. We're just going to rat you out.
So
That's
we're,
the
and
way it
you know, we
is.
talk about frugality. So
Yeah, we do.
I'm going to put some glaze here. This is just strawberry glaze. This is strawberry and blueberries.
Yeah.
Just
I know where you're going with this one.
so good. And so simple.
I like
You could
simple
easily do
things.
this with your kids or your grandkids or your neighbor kids or whoever. Just get them in the kitchen. I promise they'll remember it. Alexa still remembers when she was young and we used to cook together.
Well,
And now she's making some of the things that we used to cook. So
isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
How our kids grow up. My grandson just got married, and I'm like, when did this happen? How did he
Right?
get so old?
oh my gosh,
Which means
look
I'm
at
getting
this.
older.
Delicious. Are you coming over? No. Oh, I thought our phone was going to come over. Okay. So we've talked about our family members. We talked about, and this is a lot. This is ginormous. This is hysterical.
Maybe we don't need all that.
Okay.
Oh
You might not need this many. You might need a bigger
Oh.
pan and more pie crust. I'm
Oh,
just saying.
my.
Okay.
That
That's
is a
too
lot.
funny. This is going to feed the crew, though. Too funny. Okay, so if you want this recipe, you can contact Wanda. She's not going to have a recipe for this. Okay, this is just buy the cupcakes, buy the frosting, buy the sprinkles. She will have. So the information will come up on your screen.
Yep.
Get it however you want to. Mm-hmm. Please pray for our military members. Please
Yes.
pray for all of our first responders.
Yep. Amen.
And that's about it for the kitchen, and we'll see you next time.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, you may receive it by contacting us through social media as listed on the screen. When requesting a copy through the mail, be sure to include a self-addressed stamped envelope. Thank you, and please know we always appreciate hearing from our viewers.
They were brothers, they were soldiers, they were sailors and Marines, whose love for this country meant more than anything. The sacrifice of service sometimes requires more. They came in peace, and now they walk on peaceful shores.
All right, I am so pleased to introduce to you Bodie D'Andrea. If you've watched the network very much, I'm sure you've seen him in the last 40 years from time to time. Never in uniform, though, maybe?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
And
How are you?
you know, I'm just kind of impressed with all these ribbons and medals.
Just a little something, something.
Yeah, well, congratulations. We're all very proud of you, and we're going to talk about his service both in the police force and in the armed forces. But I think we have some pictures of your family, don't we?
Yeah, so I try to include my family on everything I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I tell my wife that all of this stuff that you're looking at, she actually earned it.
Yes.
To keep the
We
home
forget
fires
that,
going
don't
and the
we?
kids, she actually is deserving of all of that.
We do forget
I just
that.
wear it for
and
her.
there she is, a very beautiful lady. And
She is very beautiful.
I
and my
love that
kids and-
uniform gentleman standing in front of the
Well,
flag. There's something very, very
Yes.
just inspirational about that. And I would have to say your life has been an inspiration to me. This is
That was just
The
over
whole
here at
group?
MacDill Air Force Base a few months ago when I did my last re-enlistment. So getting close
And
to the
you're
end of my
still
career.
in.
I'm still in.
amazing.
I just hit my
Now,
28th year.
Is this the Naval Reserve?
Navy Reserve.
For how many years?
I just hit 28 years.
And you're retired from the police force?
I did. I retired from the sheriff's office, the local sheriff's office, to take over the family business.
Yes.
Electrical
and you're still a young
contractors.
man. Yes,
So-
D'Andrea Electric.
And I still help out. The sheriff was gracious and asked me to stay as a reserve deputy. And so I'm still certified law enforcement and help out over there when I can.
I've always said that I would want this man by me in an emergency.
Well,
I bet you're very
enjoy
quick on
serving.
the trigger.
I enjoy serving.
But you know, there's so many things we could talk about, just so many. But I want to zero in on what makes you do this. First responders, they run in when everybody else runs out. And also, I want to talk about your mom, who's been in heaven for quite a while. But I'm going to tell you something. I've never told you this before. When you joined the police force, I saw an agony in her face.
Yeah.
I really
no,
did.
she did,
I
yeah.
think every mother would. She was a real prayer warrior.
Yes.
And there's no doubt that has been a great part of your safety and all. But why do you want to? Have you ever analyzed why did I do it?
Yeah, you do. And I think those of us that are in first responder type fields, I think not only do we analyze it, but I think we do it on a regular basis. To go back to the original intention on why we got in this business. Because, you know, let's be honest, nowadays it's easy to get jaded. It really is.
Oh.
And so we want to make sure that we keep our edge razor sharp and that we realize and remember our original intentions. So for me, it was interesting. As a young boy, I have the best of both worlds. My mother's side of the family, we trace our history back to the 1790s in the United States. And my dad's side were immigrants from Italy. So I have that big, different kind of dichotomy of an upbringing. But on my mama's side of the family, we've had people that we know served in the Civil War, actually prisoners of war that were released and had to walk all the way
Civil
home. My great-grandfather served in the Spanish-American War, which was interesting because I actually got to serve in Guantanamo in Cuba for one of my deployments. So I've had relatives. My grandmother had all three of her brothers in World War II at the exact same time.
How long were you at Gitmo? I remember that.
I was there between 2009 and 2010.
I know you're there quite a while, and
Yeah.
it's you like you couldn't leave the building.
Well, you can't
Almost.
leave the base. I mean, you can't just like waltz into
Do you
the.
ever get a little? This is what
I enjoyed it. It was a beautiful place down there. Absolutely gorgeous.
there's something about that prison that kind of stands alone. It still does when I think about
Yeah, well,
it.
see, a lot of people don't understand that there's the base, which is a regular naval base, and then you have the Joint Task Force area where the prisons are, and they're completely separate. It's on the same contiguous piece of land, but there's a complete different feel and a different part of the mission and what we do there. So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
So
but
what did
it's
you do
gorgeous.
there? You
So my
keep them from
job-
escaping? That's
That's kind
probably
of interesting. My job there was I was in charge of the expeditionary court complex. So when we had the prisoners, they would come to where I was, and I was in charge of security for all the attorneys and for the court complex down there in Guantanamo Bay.
Now, is this in Cuba or just outside of it?
No, it's in Cuba. Yep.
Were you in Iraq?
I was in Iraq in 2004 when I was with the Seabees. And during that time is when we found out my mother had Lou Gehrig's disease. And she actually passed away a week before I came home.
I remember that.
It's a little difficult, but you know, when you say goodbye to your family, in the military, you prepare. If I go away, I may never come home. But you don't prepare for you coming home and your relatives not being there. It was kind of a reversal of our expectation.
When you were a little kid, did
Yeah.
you think I want to be a policeman? I want to
No,
be
so
in the Navy?
I was fascinated with the military. Listening to my grandmother tell stories about her brothers and some of the romantic type movies, you know, from
Oh,
World War
yes.
II that I saw. I actually talked to a Marine Corps recruiter in high school and I planned on going to the Marine Corps. And I really felt like God was leading me to go to Bible college. And so I just didn't show up when I was supposed to for the Marines and went to Bible college.
The
And
truth
then-
is out.
Yeah. And then once I got out of Bible college, went into the ministry, and then Lord led me into law enforcement. And after I got into law enforcement, I really felt like I wanted to serve in this capacity in the military. But at the time, there was no openings. And so I had to wait for the Gulf War actually to happen
You
for
mean
the
there was
job
no
that I do.
No openings?
Not for the security job
for
that I
what
do.
you wanted, yeah.
Yeah, so I had to wait for the Gulf War to kick off before there was openings for me to come in. So I've been serving consistently since 1993.
So do you look at it as a calling?
Yeah, so for me, I believe that God's calling on my life is very special, and it's a calling of service, you know, and
I
to serve
think-
civilian and law enforcement and serve in the
That's
military.
service,
And we
so-
have so few people. If you take our population that have really served in the military, there's a small group that actually has served our country and our nation.
A lot of times when you grow up in church and you talk about a calling, you just think it's to be a preacher. I think every admirable type of endeavor
Yeah.
would include a calling.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially
in medicine.
in public service, people need to read Romans chapter 13, where it specifically talks about the ministers that are part of the government that take care of and protect, you know, that group.
What kind of mates did you have? Did some of them join to escape something?
So my journey, I'll talk about my journey. When I came in, I called him my sea daddy. He was the one that took me under his wing and said, you don't talk unless you're with me, and you just do what I do, and I'm going to help you with your career. He was also law enforcement civilian side and was a Navy reservist. He was a chief, and I still keep in contact with him. He's 81 years old.
Now,
He still lives local.
Why did you don't
And
talk
after
to
all
anybody?
these years, we still keep in contact. And a great man, retired from the U.S. Marshal Service, and served in the military. What a great guy. So he was kind of the one that helped take me under my wing. But I will tell you this, you know, as a Master Chief, one of the jobs that I do is provide counseling for the junior sailors and those things. And I see the different reasons why people join. Some
what
of
we're
them are
interested
to escape their home life. Well, one of my friends, a beautiful black female, is the command master chief on a warship, and her home life was so bad, she ran away to join the Navy, and the Navy became her family. Since then, she's had a wonderful career and has done so well. Some kids do it for the money. Some kids do it for training because in certain circumstances, the government will pay for your college and, and help you out in that route.
Are you familiar with the GI Bill?
Sure,
That
I
was
am.
Second World War.
It actually, so the follow-on to that is the Montgomery Bill, which helped pay for my 4-year degree. And then the post 9/11 bill is also helping with my children to afford their college as well. So,
Well, they should. The government should do that.
so I don't know that I see it as an entitlement. I see it as, if you look, a lot of the people that serve now are second, third, and fourth generation military people. And so I see it as an investment. When the military does things like that, they're investing on further generations to draw them into what we do.
But what you've been a part of, the police force and the military, it's signing up for maybe I won't live that much longer. It's very different.
Yeah, so I'm a guy that's an alpha male that likes the adrenaline rush. I'm not going to lie. There's that part of me now as I get older. I'm settling down a little bit and I got some aches and pains. But there is that adrenaline rush that, I kind of enjoy that environment. But
I'm
again,
thankful that you're still here and you're in good shape.
but when you're doing it for the right reasons,
But I know your parents too, and I knew your mom, and I know your dad very well. His office is down the hall from mine, and I think of parents because I'm a parent, and so when you join something that there's no question, you're putting your life on the line.
Sure.
But
I know.
from what you've said, it sounds like it was
I know what
a
I've put them
bold
through.
decision.
Yeah, I
You
know
knew
what
it-
I put them through. More probably law enforcement than military. But even my wife, we have a standing order still that if I'm going to be late, at least call her and let her know. Because I used to do it. I'd be funny. I'd say, listen, I'm not going to be home on time, but you'll see me on the news, something that we were involved in or this or that. I think if you talk to my wife, one of the worst times that we had was in Iraq. We took some casualties to my unit. And I was right there just a few yards away when they were blown up. And not being able to call home, but the word already spread to the news that my unit took casualties. And to hear my wife's side of the story was getting no news. She's like, I know we had casualties, but I don't know if it's my husband or not. And to wait for that phone call a day or two later was very, very difficult. So I know what I've put them through. It's very, very hard on them.
Well, I'm so glad that you're just in such good shape. You're in a new phase of your life. You're vice president of an electrical company now, D'Andrea Electric.
Second generation electrician, completely different.
You stay with me. We want to show them something that's rather meaningful. And when we come back, I want to tell you about my relatives that have been in the military. Stay right there. You stay there. And my friend, we do want you to remember today. That word's through the scripture a lot. To remember this, that Ebenezer that they raised, that you remember. Hitherto hath the Lord helped us. I was going to tell Bodie, I had a uncle in the First World War, and he was a preacher, and he came back, but he had a wounded eye that always was very prominent, a reminder of the conflict. And then I had an uncle in the Second World War. And he was on a ship in the Pacific that was torpedoed out from under them. He saw somebody's friends die. He never was quite the same. But I was just a little kid. And when I would stay with my grandmother, we'd be out playing, and have the biggest time. She called us in to pray. Well, none of us wanted to pray. We wanted to play. And but every day she prayed the same thing about her son on a ship in the South Pacific. And she'd pray, "Oh, Lord, pour oil on the troubled waters." Every day, pour oil on the troubled waters. And I've got grandmas out there, great grandmas, I've got moms out there, that's what they can do. And I know your mother. I know you're probably alive because of her prayers and all. And so I wanted to make this day, this program, just exactly what you've helped us to make it today. The purpose of Memorial Day is to remember.
Yeah, war and combat changes you. And sometimes we see injuries as internal, sometimes external. And so that's what we can do, is we can support those that have served or still serving, pray for them and strengthen them.
Absolutely.
It's very, very important.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite presidents, probably yours too, was Ronald Reagan. And he loved America. He was just so upfront about that. And he loved the military. And he did everything that he could for them. And sometimes you can look back and see some of the things he said that I think some of our young people need to know today. At the top of the show, I said, you know, if you're going to fix some cupcakes and put red and blue sprinkles on them, talk about why. Just talk about why.
Yeah, so
okay?
I'm on my 5th president that I've served under, and it doesn't matter which party. We serve our country faithfully, and we execute our duties, and we do it to the best of our ability. And we're in good hands. We have a good, young next generation coming up, and I feel very confident for the future.
Now, our armed forces, we don't draft anymore. I remember when they drafted.
But we're still getting good talent, and I still see heroism, and I see the dedication and the commitment, and I would say our nation is in very good hands.
Yeah, and I would say that because we only enlist, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
If you draft somebody and they're kicking and screaming, they might not make
A lot
you
of
the
times
best.
we always say that this generation looks back and that was the best one before, and these kids now don't know. I'm telling you, these kids now are just as dedicated, just as motivated. They encourage me to keep going.
I am so glad to hear that.
They really do.
Because I've admitted I'm a news junkie, and mostly all you get is bad news. And when you hear from somebody who should know
Yes,
that we've got a great, great group
we do.
of
We really
kids, and the thing I want my audience to do is really pray for them. And if you do not have anybody specifically in any of these branches, you can certainly pray for those who are in it, that God would keep them safe, bring them home safely. I hate war. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
And I mentioned earlier a president that really loved the military, loved America, Ronald Reagan. Here are his words.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.